contented merino at Canterbury's Centennial Show. Along with the merinos, there are 18 other breeds, such as the white-faced Cheviot, the black-faced Suffolk, and the Dorset Horn with the horn-rimmed spectacles. Besides the well-known cattle like Herefords, there are milking Shorthorns and red poles. Aristocrats all. Time for the grand parade, and the best of Canterbury's beef and dairy cattle move to the ring. For 100 years, the prize animals at the show have set the standards for livestock breeding and added to the province's wealth. There's seldom a quiet moment as traditional and novelty events follow one another during the 4 days of the show. Canterbury's the great agriculture province, and every farmer's an expert on farm machinery. You start learning when you're young. But when you've been given a traction engine that's your very own, you're in the expert class. Everybody makes the most of the sideshows. It'll be another year before the Canterbury show comes round again.
The liner Rangatane berths in Wellington, and for the second time in 40 years, a member of the Fergusson family arrives to take office as Governor-General. First ashore is Master George Fergusson, Sir Bernard's 8-year-old son. He'll attend school here during his parents' stay. Lady Fergusson and Sir Bernard disembark. Later in the day, there'll be an outdoor ceremony at Parliament Buildings when Sir Bernard is sworn in as Governor-General of New Zealand. As his father meets cabinet ministers, young George looks on. Sir Bernard has come to a country his family knows well. His father and grandfather both represented the sovereign in New Zealand. Then to the cenotaph. The Governor-General designate, who's a retired brigadier with a distinguished service record, lays a wreath in memory of New Zealanders who fell in 2 world wars. The grounds of Parliament Buildings are packed as Sir Bernard arrives to be sworn in. This will be the first time the oaths have been taken at a public ceremony. Sir Bernard will first take the oath of allegiance to the Crown.
I, Bernard Edward Fergusson, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God.
The oath of office.
I, Bernard Edward Fergusson, solemnly swear that I will duly execute the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over New Zealand, and that I will duly and impartially administer justice therein, so help me God.
Sir Bernard Fergusson signs the oath of office, and New Zealand welcomes a new Governor-General.
Central Otago is gold country. Along this river 100 years ago battled clerks and sailors, butchers and bakers, ne'er-do-wells and prospectors, intent on reaping a golden harvest. Today the gold is gone. Only these gullies made by old sluicings remain. Now tourists skim over waters that once yielded riches to a few and heartbreak to many. For 50 years, Lake Wakatipu has been home to the steamer Earnslaw. Today, she's pulling into her home port, crowded with 1,000 visitors coming to celebrate Queenstown Centenary. Exactly 100 years ago, William Rees built his homestead where Eichardt's Hotel now stands on the waterfront. When Rees and another sheep squatter named von Tutzelmann arrived, this was open, lonely country. Then late in 1862, a fever spread through the mountains. The rush for gold was on. Over the years, the prospectors left, a few rich, many poor. Now the past invades the streets of Queenstown, led by direct descendants of Rees and von Tutzelmann. Proudly riding the asphalt is the first whaleboat used by Rees. These prospectors are 100 years too late to make a fortune, but happy nevertheless. And so's the crowd. A novelty today, pack horses provided a drop of the hard stuff and meat for many a miner. The early families brought everything, including the brass bedstead. This is a drag, not a dray. A cavalcade of the past delights the thousands as the days of gold live again. Arrowtown, once the biggest of the diggings. Tourists drive down a street once accustomed to the jingle and clatter of a gold coach. In those riotous days, they needed a solid jail. Once a bank, the Lakes County Museum at Arrowtown houses relics of the days when Otago was the country's richest province. In 1862, a pan, a pick and a shovel were a man's best friends. Forging precariously around barren bluffs, the Skipper's Road was built to bring gold from the Shotover, the world's richest river. One section measuring 5 feet by 12 feet was valued at £3,000, and that was back in 1863. But the Shotover fought to retain her fabulous wealth. These 400-foot cliffs were staunch allies. The miners had to lower themselves on ropes. Many were killed. Their bones rest in the skipper's graveyard. By 1863, there were an estimated 7,000 men scattered about the mountains, following the phantom gleam of gold. The rush on the Arrow River, which established Arrowtown, was typical of the times. In October, there were about 30 men wresting riches from the waters. 3 months later, there were 1,500. Food was scarce and prices were high. Enterprising characters like the notorious Bully Hayes put up crude hotels and provided entertainment. Brawls over claim jumping, women and everything in general were common. Then the law arrived on the gold fields and disputes, especially those over claims, were settled peacefully. a while, gold was the lifeblood of Otago, and coaches with armed escorts rumbled regularly down to Dunedin. To old miners, the reconstruction of the Arrow Gold Rush brings back memories, and to the thousands of spectators, a lasting picture of Otago's most exciting days.